Nice.
A show created by the fans, for the fans. We are your home for Ohio State football coverage all year long. The Scarlet and Gray Podcast, a Network 216 production. Live weekdays on the Network 216 YouTube channel. Send us all your questions and comments on Twitter at @VSG_podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Tyler Johnson, Jordan Dalton, and Nick Leisure.
Good evening, Buckeye Nation. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Scarlet and Gray Podcast. Tyler Johnson, Nick Leisure, Jordan Dalton with you as always. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing this evening?
We got more football. Doing a little bit all right. There's hope, right?
Yeah, dude. I'm doing pretty well. You know, this was the first weekend, and you know what? 12 weeks that we had some stress-free football from the Buckeye, because the Buckeyes didn't play. So, yeah. I mean, stress-free weekend.
That's fact. Ohio won the MAC championship.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun little trip.
It's going to be a little bit of a different show tonight because we're not going to talk so much on the Ohio State side, but the college football playoff bracket was revealed. So we'll discuss that tonight. We are going to talk about some of the latest transfers linked to the Buckeyes as the transfer portal opened on Monday. Before we get to any of that, guys, if you just take a quick second, if you would, just drop a quick like onto the video. Again, completely free to like the video, completely free to subscribe. So if you're brand new, it helps that YouTube algorithm grow, but also subscribe to the channel. We normally have 2 shows per week, but this time of year it is a little bit difficult, especially just with all the moving parts, the transfer portal, recruiting. So we'll kind of just see what ends up happening. We'll play it by ear. If we do release an episode, of course, this week, we will let you guys know. But there is plenty to discuss. There's a lot happening within the transfer portal, within the college football playoff, and we're looking forward to getting into it. But first off, I want to thank everyone that tuned in last week. By far, most viewed shows we've had this season have been over the last week. So first off, thank you guys so much for that. Not only that on views on YouTube, but also on audio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So thank you guys so much for that support. Let's see if we can top it this week. Gentlemen, the playoff bracket has been revealed. I figured we'll kind of have a little bit of fun with this. We'll kind of go we'll do one side of the bracket, then go to the other. I know we've had a chance to kind of look into this a little bit. We've discussed it ourselves off the air about it as well. But going in the first half of the bracket so far, I'm going to share it here. But what are just some of your guys' takeaways just from looking at the first half of this bracket of the college football playoff? Are there any surprises, anything that really sticks out to you?
From that first half, Clemson got that upset win in the ACC championship game over SMU. So they were ranked 17th. They were able to sneak in and get that 12 seed. And then Arizona State's kind of in a similar position, but they lucked out because of SMU's loss. They actually snagged the bye because they became the 4th highest ranked conference champion. So they actually went from having a first round, probably against Texas, to having the first round bye. So they're sitting really pretty, and they'll play the winner of the Clemson-Texas game in the Peach Bowl. And then looking at Ohio State, Tennessee, we finally got our marquee night game. That's going to be Saturday night at 8 on ESPN, ABC. So I think that'll be kind of what we've been screaming for all year, is just like a big night game. I think it's going to be a scarlet out possibility. The Buckeyes are going to be wearing their all scarlet uniforms. So it's just going to be a really good matchup. I was thinking about it, and these seniors coming off this loss to Michigan probably thought there was a really good possibility their last home game was a loss to Michigan. And now they can bounce back. They get a redemption at home, and they can kind of end their Ohio State careers with a win and a horseshoe. and not have to not have to hang it up losing that game as their last career game at home. So a lot of things at stake too with Ryan Day. And then if they go on to win that game, they'll be facing Oregon for a rematch in the true Big Ten championship game. So yeah, a lot of interesting matchups.
You know, we as Buckeye fans, we always scream, you know what, we'd love to see an SEC team, you know, come up to Columbus in December and see what it's like to get to play in the Big Ten and in the cold. And, you know, and I think the best equipped team, I know we'll do a game day preview, but I think the best equipped team to handle cold weather is in the SEC is probably Tennessee, because they have a really good running game. Nico, their quarterback, is solid as well, but they really like to run the football. So that's going to be a super intriguing matchup, and especially like you said, Jordan, gives those seniors another home game. Now that's really the last home game that those guys are going to play in the shoe. So it gives them an opportunity, like you said, bounce back in a big way. And I mean, that's the first home game that Ohio State will host in December ever. That's an all timer. So yeah, I'm excited for that game, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the Clemson Texas game, that could be interesting too. Dabo's got them Clemson Tigers playing really well. Cade Klubnik's playing some really good football, and Ewers has been banged up all year long. So, I mean, it's good. Both those matchups, I know they're first-round matchups, they're super intriguing. I think it's going to be some really competitive football.
I think for me, first off, Running Baldwin, again, I absolutely love your name. So every time you comment, it always gives me a little bit of a chuckle. He said, I decided during the game that Ryan Day's this generation's John Cooper. I mean, not many people are going to disagree with you at this point on that one. Of course, Derek Glazier says, be careful what you wish for. Tennessee's defensive line is tough. Yeah, they are. We're going to do an entire game day preview on Tennessee, so we won't dive as much into Ohio State and Tennessee. Believe me, there will be probably a half-hour episode just dedicated to that game. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss that. But I think for me, the takeaway here is the 1 seed really just sucks. Like, I mean, you look at Oregon. Oregon's reward for getting the 1 seed and being the Big Ten champion is you're going to play Ohio State and Tennessee. And Tennessee is a very tough team from the standpoint that, again, we're going to talk about them more, but they spread you out and then they'll run the ball very effectively because their offensive line is very good. And then, of course, Ohio State, there are many people that believe Ohio State's a favorite to win the entire national championship still. And you have a team like Oregon, that's your reward for having the number 1 seed, which I just think is brutal, honestly. And then you look at Clemson and Texas. I think, and I don't know what you guys think about this because I don't know how you guys feel about it. I personally feel like the Big Four should, no matter what, be the top 4 seeds. Like, as much, even though Clemson does not have as good of a record as Boise State, I personally feel if you win your conference title as it is currently, as the playoffs are currently constructed, the Big Four should clinch a first-round bye. So personally, I think in this case, I think Clemson should have gotten a first-round bye as well over Boise State. Just my personal opinion. If Boise State was in the ACC, then, of course, that would be different. I would say Boise deserves it. But in this case, Clemson's the ACC champion. They said they were the lowest ranked out of all these teams that made the playoff. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, going into the game, they were lower ranked and they have 3 losses. So you look at it, they're lower ranked than Boise State. Boise State gets the bye because they finished higher in the college football playoff rankings. I think it's a fair ranking system. I don't necessarily agree with you should automatically get a bye if you're a Big Four champion. And ultimately, that's the whole point of the 12-team playoff. We're going to see it play out. But I think the biggest thing for me that I would like to see changed is kind of go to how the NFL has their seeding is if the lowest seed, let's say Clemson beats Texas, they play Oregon. Like the lowest seed would play the 1 seed. So the lowest seed to win their game would play the 1 seed and then so on and so forth. 2 plays the second lowest. And that way you kind of get a disbursement of those lower seeds not earning a better draw than a 1 seed, which we're kind of seeing. Like when we go to the bottom half of the bracket, you're going to see Penn State's path Arguably, you look at Texas's path, they drew Clemson and Arizona State, which those might be the two weakest teams in this entire bracket as a 5 seed. So them losing that overtime game to Georgia was almost like a reward because their path is easier. So and it's all
definitely flawed to begin with.
Yeah, it's all opinion, right? So like some people might not think they have an easier path, but just by seeding, you look at the final team rankings. Yeah, Clemson and Arizona State are the bottom 2 ranked teams, other than the other remaining ACC team, SMU. So Texas does get the best path theoretically to national championship, and Penn State's is not that difficult as well. I mean, most simulations I've seen of this college football playoff, just like computer simulations, them running the simulation on the video game, Penn State ends up in the national championship.
I've seen Ohio State, Penn State quite a few times, actually.
I've seen Penn State in the national championship quite a few times. Notre Dame also ends up in there. We'll see how that plays out, but I like Penn State is the like common denominator when it comes to like one team making a national championship. And you just look at their schedule, like they drew SMU. If they beat SMU, they end up with Boise State, who TJ, you just argued probably shouldn't have gotten a bye in the first round because they're not even a Power 4 conference. They're in the what Midwest.
Mountain West,
Mountain West. And it's just it is kind of an odd layout. And it's, I think if they would have just switched it to like lowest seed plays the highest seed after the bye, we wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah, these are all things that they'll work out,
Yeah,
sure. And first year.
I think at the end of the day, we're going to end up with 16 teams anyways.
Probably.
Just because, more games, more money, 4 more
season goes longer.
Yeah, and really you're just going to take away like one game in the regular season, make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think we'll end up seeing 16 games, and that would fix all the problems.
Real quick, Evan, the reporter says, there it is, folks. Rich Rodriguez, per West Virginia Beat Reports, has agreed to return to West Virginia. Well, that's interesting. Evan, I have not seen that yet because I'm trying to keep up with things in case
Rich Rod, baby.
In case anyone from the portal enters or whatnot. So we'll see. That's going to be very interesting if that is indeed true. Wow, that's wild. But going back to the playoff here, I'm going to say this, and a lot of people are going to disagree with this. I don't think SMU is going to get blown out by Penn State. If anything, I think SMU is going to give them a game. The one thing that Penn State showed, at least against Oregon, is that they can score. But I'm telling you what, the way SMU played in that second half against Clemson, they go to Happy Valley for a noon game, which is a best case scenario for them, is getting a noon kickoff at Happy Valley. I don't know. I think they're going to give Penn State a game. I really do. And whoever wins that game, I think beats Boise State. I'll say that right now. I think whoever wins that game beats Boise State in the playoff.
I think Penn State might roll, dude. The way they played against Oregon offensively, yeah, their defense gave up a lot of points, but offensively, man, they looked really tough. And Drew Aller's playing pretty well, so I think Penn State rolls, dude. I think they roll.
Georgia's 2 overtime games away from not even making the playoff.
Well, and who knows the health of Carson Beck? Luckily they got a bye, so they have a couple weeks. But I mean, that's his throwing elbow, dude. And if you can't, I mean, that's the UCL. That's so important. I mean, you can't throw the ball.
It was very similar to Brock Purdy's injury in the playoffs a couple years ago. He gets hit while he's winding up to throw a deep Hail Mary, and it just gets hit on the arm, and that can be enough to really do some damage. And it's college football. We're not going to hear what his status is until probably a few days before the game, maybe the day of the game. So, yeah, I mean, Georgia's kind of like. And also take into account what happened with Florida State last year, Georgia's going to stay hush on this. And like, I know the selection's over, but There's no way they're going to go in there and say like Carson Beck's out of this game.
But I mean, I just find it super ironic that they literally have the last game like of the night of the quarterfinal. So they literally have the longest break out of anybody of these 4 buys, and they get the biggest benefit, which I think is hilarious because
they did give them. I mean, they also got the Sugar Bowl, which I believe is in Louisiana.
Yeah,
which is pretty much.
I mean, SEC bias, that's not a thing, right? No.
They did. I think for the most part, they did a pretty decent job of
sure.
at least the top 4. I will say the one thing they did do that I think, and even though like I do agree the SEC bias is ridiculous, they did match up the top 4 seeds pretty much geographically with the bowl game about as best as they could. Like Boise getting the Fiesta Bowl out in Arizona,
Oregon getting
the
the
Rose Bowl. And then Arizona State, that wasn't going to work. Like, let's just call it what it is. That wasn't going to work anyway. But yeah, Georgia, at least to me, they're not going anywhere without Carson Beck. I just don't think they are. And if Notre Dame gets past Indiana, which I think
they will
is an assumption, Notre Dame might be going to Notre Dame might be in the semifinals. I mean,
dude, and I think a Notre Dame Penn State game in the semifinal. I think I'd put my money on Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman will have those boys ready to roll. James Franklin will pee down his leg, and that'll be all she wrote.
That's why I have a hard time going with Penn State for any of this, to be honest with you. It's just because of the James Franklin effect. That's my biggest thing. He hasn't won it. Like, he hasn't proven that he can win any big game.
No, I agree.
So it's
There's so many narratives that can be changed with these playoffs. Ryan Day, James Franklin, Marcus Freeman, who's not had. I mean, he's probably had some of the biggest losses in Notre Dame history as his head coach.
For sure.
But he's turned this team around, and they're playing really good football. But like the loss to Marshall was really bad. The loss to Northern Illinois was really bad. So I think he has a lot. He has a lot he can prove. You know, Kirby Smart can do his thing. Dan Lanning, like we have like premier head coaches in this college football playoff, and then there's a lot of
Dabo.
Dabo. And then SMU, Boise State can prove a lot. Indiana, Kirk Cinetti.
Yeah, he's been talking a lot of trash already, dude.
Really?
I think he's pretty upset on his seeding, but
he should be happy he's in.
I agree. No, I'm with you, dude. I agree. The fact that there's 4 Big Ten teams in this year, Indiana definitely caught a break by getting in, but I think their resume, just the way they beat teams all year long, I think that's what really helped them in the long run.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So looking at this bracket right now, guys, who is your final 4 if you had to pick it right now?
Final 4? I got mine already.
Okay, who you got?
So who's at the very top again? Oh yeah, it'll be Texas, Ohio State in semi. Dude, I'm literally just taking I'm gonna take Penn State and Notre Dame.
Okay.
I think Penn State, Notre Dame, and then Ohio State, Texas in the final 4.
Okay. I think. Gosh, don't kill me for this. I think Texas, Oregon. I think that Penn State beats SMU and Boise State. And I think if Carson Beck's healthy, Georgia. If not, Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's an asterisk. I agree. If Beck is healthy, I think Georgia gets to the championship.
I'm going to change that. I think Indiana beats Notre Dame in the first round.
Really?
Shocker, but I think they do. And same scenario. If Beck's healthy, I think they win. Georgia wins. If Beck's not healthy, I think Indiana gets it done and makes it to the Final 4.
That'd be an incredible run from
that would actually be insane.
That would be nuts.
That would be unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, if that
going from the bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten to the semifinal of the college football playoff in 1 year, that'd be pretty incredible.
It would be. That would be. So
who you got in your Final 4, TJ?
I'm tempted to not pick Texas because I just don't know if I can trust Quinn Ewers.
I'm shaky about it as well.
I'm not since obviously we're not like filling these out. I'm gonna go with Arizona State. I got Arizona State and I got Oregon, and then I'll take Penn State and Notre Dame, and then I think, man, it's so tough there.
Way to be homers, guys! Unbelievable.
It's so tough because the Penn State Notre Dame one for me. If Drew Aller keeps playing the way he is, he can take them to a national championship. Like I have no doubt about that because he's playing fantastic football. If he can play like that through the playoff, he can lead them to a championship. Riley Leonard, though, is playing fantastic. I know Notre Dame's got a great defense. It's Notre Dame also can seemingly just doesn't ever get over the hump in big games. So that's the other thing. Something's got to give if that matchup happens between Notre Dame and Penn State. And then if I had to go right now for a national championship, I would say I would have Oregon and Notre Dame. And then
I don't think there's any way Notre Dame makes it to the national.
Why do you feel that way?
I think Notre Dame. I've watched
they
them
don't
a couple
have,
times.
They don't have a good win this year. They haven't played anybody of substance.
Does Army not count for anything? Like I'm asking.
No.
Do they don't?
Who has Army beaten this year?
Huh?
Everybody but Notre Dame.
Literally.
Yeah, but who?
I know.
The same argument though is Indiana. Who's Indiana beating?
That's also true.
Like
they at least
the other
play
side
in the Big Ten.
Huh?
I said they at least play a Big Ten schedule.
I mean, that's fine.
I'm looking at Notre Dame's schedule compared to Indiana.
All right, I will say
Notre Dame's schedule is going to be trashola, bro.
I think there's one hidden factor that hasn't been talked about is Kurt Cignetti's experience in the playoffs.
That's fair.
He's coached in the playoffs more than 4 years at JMU. He's been to a national title game at JMU.
Yeah.
He knows how to coach his team in the playoffs. And
I like that.
as much as I think there's a lot to be said about being able to navigate that in terms of player management and things of that nature, not looking ahead and keeping your team focused week to week. So
that's a good point.
I don't know. None of these other coaches have done it.
Except Kirby.
At a 14 playoff, not an actual.
Not a big one.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a very valid point.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just think, dude, Notre Dame's playing really good right now. I like the teams that are hot right now are the ones that in something like this, it's hard. Like Arizona State for me is hard to pick against them, right?
So what you're saying is Arizona State's going to the Natty?
It wouldn't be the most surprising thing.
Dillingham taking his squad all the way there.
I wouldn't be shocked if Arizona State gives Texas a great game or Clemson a great game.
Dude,
State,
that Clemson Texas game is going to be really competitive, dude. That's going to be a really fun one, I think.
I'm hard pressed to say any of these games are going to be blowouts.
The only thing is that Clemson's got to go to Austin, obviously. Like the home field advantages are really tight, you know. But because I'm sure SMU, they're probably walking into a whiteout at noon, you know. So I don't know. It's definitely going to be something. I think all the first round games are going to be super entertaining.
Yeah.
Is that on TNT?
Yes, it is. TNT Max.
TNT's got some games.
4K, baby. I'm going to be watching it on HBO, 4K.
All right.
Nah, dude, but I know we're going to touch on it, but I'll bring it up right now. It's quite obvious who's got the toughest path. I mean, it's obviously our Ohio State Buckeyes have the toughest path to a national championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, got to be Tennessee, who's a top 2 program in the SEC right now.
I would say Tennessee has a tougher path because they have.
Well, correct.
But you mean that like the
8-9 game has the toughest road. Thank you.
100%.
Because it's tough, man. That's why we wanted that 5 seed so bad. Because then you pretty much got a gimme to the semifinal if you're Ohio State, you know.
It's crazy that we beat Michigan, we lose to Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Guess where we're sitting? Number 5.
Yep, 100%. And guys, if people want to complain about the seeding and how the Buckeyes got the short end, win the game, dude. Win the game against an unranked opponent. Then you're not even to talk about it.
Agreed.
So, I mean, it is what it is. But
so of course,
go ahead.
The question remains, because it has been a talking point. I mean, ever since the bracket came out. Did Miami and Alabama get snubbed from the college football playoff?
No.
Miami's got a couple really bad losses on their resume. And Alabama, I mean, dude, literally the only people that wanted Alabama in was Alabama fans. That's it. No one else. It was strictly that. It's like, dude, you didn't play in your conference title game. You got 3 losses on the year.
That argument that Nick Saban made about we're not going to take stock in our out of conference schedule anymore. Like, we can just schedule cupcakes because it doesn't matter. Like, it's so laughable to me because
it's valid though.
Well, but their 3 losses were to SEC opponents.
I know.
Correct.
So it had nothing to do with it.
Like, it has literally nothing to do with it.
They didn't schedule anybody in the non-conference.
They don't play anybody anyways.
They went at Wisconsin. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
No. I'm saying
I know,
that's it. That's all they did.
And they struggled in that game early.
Yeah, they did.
So I think it's just hilarious. Like, you lose to Vandy. Obviously, probably shouldn't lose to Vandy.
Yeah.
You lose
to Georgia.
And then who else? Tennessee, Ole Miss. Was their other loss?
Ole Miss? No. It was Vanderbilt, Tennessee,
and
Georgia.
They didn't lose to Georgia.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, dude. That Oklahoma loss is it for me.
Yeah.
And
once they lost
Vandy
Oklahoma,
on the road, dude, they have some bad losses this year.
Now, if you had a situation where Indiana maybe had 2 losses, then I could see it. I could, because at that point, I think Alabama has more quality wins. But even then, you can't lose that many games to terrible opponents and expect to be in the playoff. I'll say this. The one thing I'll give the committee credit for, and we can complain about the seeding all day long, because people will, about how Ohio State should have been the 6th seed and whatnot. One thing they did do, I think they got every single team right. Every single team that deserved to be in, I think, got in this case. I really do.
Yeah, I think Clemson definitely made their decision a little bit harder between SMU and Alabama, because I think Alabama would have been in if Clemson lost that game.
Yeah.
But because they got the auto bid, they kind of had a moment where they could set a precedent, either punish a team for playing in a conference championship or reward them for playing in a conference championship. And SMU sitting at where they were at 8. They lost their conference championship game, not by a lot, only by a field goal.
Had a chance right at the end.
And they didn't really get punished. They're still in the playoff. They dropped a few spots like they should, but they kept them in the playoff, and they really did set a precedent for the next few years that the conference championship game, if you make it, isn't really going to hurt your position in the playoff. It might hurt your seeding, but it's not going to hurt your position.
And I think that's how it should be, right? I mean,
yeah.
you get all the way to your conference title game. In a game that's not in a regular season, you shouldn't be penalized out of a playoff if you lose. The 2 best teams in the conference are, if you lose, and that's fine. You should still get in. So, whatever.
Yeah. So I agree.
You shouldn't be. The only time you should be penalized for losing a conference title game is if you have a Wisconsin type of performance and lose by 50.
Crushed.
If that happens, at that point, I can't defend you. Like
none of these teams did. Penn State and Oregon was a great matchup.
Battled.
SMU, Clemson down to the wire.
Texas, Georgia.
Arizona State blew the water out of Iowa State. Just blew them out of the water. Yeah. Texas, Georgia went to overtime. So those games and Boise State took care of business. So it's all easy decisions, and I think TJ is right. All the teams that deserve to be in are in. Miami and Bama can suck an egg.
Well, it's funny. since we were talking about Alabama, I looked up who their bowl game is against. The team up north. They freaking, dude. And they're like, man, what kind of a TV show can we make out of a barely bowl eligible team up north? Oh, let's let them play Alabama and see how that goes.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious. I just saw that for the first time just now. So
it honestly is kind of hilarious when you think about it. Like that's pretty hilarious.
I did go through just before we move on and finish up, but just one of the college football bowl games that I thought was interesting that's not in the playoff. That Colorado BYU game.
It's gonna be fun.
It's going to be really, I mean, 2 Big 12 teams that didn't play in the regular season. They didn't make the conference championship. It's going to be a really good game, like 2 ranked teams, and everybody's playing for Colorado. So I think that's a really good, fun matchup for bowl season.
That will be fun. And a lot of people have asked why that is. It's because with the conference realignment, they still have to satisfy the Pac-12 bowl schedule. So that's why that is the way it is. That'll be a really good game. Shador's going to play, Travis Hunter. So, yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Future Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter.
Should be. 100% should be. But, of course, time to move on to kind of what's the big news of the day here. So, Ohio State, not only have they shown interest in Purdue star safety Dylan Thieneman, he is actually going to be taking an official visit to Ohio State next week, according to On3's Steve Wilfon. So, guys, Ohio State and Oregon, it sounds like it's a battle between the 2 Big Ten schools. I think there's a possibility, just my personal opinion, I think Notre Dame could get involved here as well. With him being an Indiana kid, Notre Dame has a need at safety. But first off, there are a lot of Buckeye fans that aren't against this move, but they think, like, why are we going after a safety when we clearly need help in the trenches? So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
We're losing Lathan Ransom, dude. Why not go get a safety?
Dude, get all the talent you can get in the portal.
Right? It's like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, we need help in the trenches, sure, but you know what alleviates the trenches? If we have really good play in the backside.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and like you said, Jordan, get as much talent as you can. That's the name of the game anymore.
Yeah.
Like, just load up. So why not go get him?
It would be him and Caleb Downs would be electric back there.
Tough. It would be tough.
It would be insane, man. I mean, this is a guy that Dylan Thieneman, freshman All-American. I mean, you look at his stats, he's got over 200 career tackles. Now, again, that's not great stat for a safety, but think about where he's playing at Purdue.
How many picks did he have as a freshman? Did he have like 9?
I think he had 6.
Yeah, it was something crazy. I knew it was high single digits.
He's one of the top players available in the portal. I'll say this. If you compare him with Caleb Downs, you do it. I don't think twice. I don't even know. Like, as fans, I don't understand. Maybe you guys can, like, weigh in on this too. Why we're complaining when we're interested in elite players. Who cares what position they play? The goal is to stack as much talent as possible. Okay, I like some of these young guys. I like Malik Hartford. I like Jaden Bonsu. The reality is, if you leave, you leave. Like, I'm stacking as much talent as possible, and the job of Ryan Day or whoever the next head coach is, their job is to stack the talent. It's not to please certain guys. It's not. I understand that, like, we live in a society where we don't like to hurt people's feelings. Like, I get that, and we're very careful with our actions and our words. But, dude, I'm telling you, if I can go out and add a guy who's an All-American type of talent, I'm doing it. And I don't worry about, well, I have this sophomore there that I think is going to be, like, might end up being pretty good, but, you know, he's never been a starter before. Like, I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Because, again, there is a large portion of the fan base that's like, man, like, we're going to lose Malik Hartford and Jaden Bonsu if we do that. If you do, you do. You're adding an All-American type of talent. Like, I just don't understand.
Proven talent over unproven talent is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be an interesting – man, I'm telling you, the NIL is going to change. It's got to change with the portal and how crazy it's been.
It's bad, dude.
There's got to be some more guidelines, I think. And they need to be more strict on on transfers and who can and can't transfer. Go and get your money up. There shouldn't be a restriction on how much money you should get or what kind of deals, but chasing the money and transferring every year is kind of
it's BS, dude. Is what it is.
So I don't know what they got to do. I don't have the answers. I'm just the guy complaining about it. But I think get the talent if you can get it, and if you end up losing people on the way, more will come. So
exactly, that's the way I look at it.
And let's be honest, that is the luxury of being at Ohio State, right? I mean, we can say more will come pretty confidently, as opposed to like a Marshall who's having a mass exodus, and like an A&M that's lost an entire recruiting class to the portal, like stuff like that. It's like we're always going to be able to have guys that can come in and kind of reload. So yeah, go get them if you can.
Also, Eli, I'm not going to repeat word for word what you said, but you're right. It does not get you wins. Like it doesn't. And it's going to be interesting. The Buckeyes are going to be active regardless if Ryan Day's still here or if they end up moving on, which still is not completely out of the realm of possibility, then the portal will be even more insane for Ohio State. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Ohio State also, guys, is connected. Big surprise, I'm sure, connected to some offensive linemen. So at this time, yeah, I know it's a shocker. And again, we wouldn't be in this current position.
Chill. Leave the coach out of it.
Well, it's a big problem. Anyway, Ohio State is connected to Nevada offensive tackle Isaiah World, who just officially entered the portal today. It sounds like they've shown interest in him. They are getting an official visit from Northwestern offensive lineman Josh Thompson, who I consider, at least at this point, to be probably one of the top offensive linemen available in the portal. I think you have to make him a priority. I hope they do. He is from Michigan, so if they show interest, might get a little interesting there. It looks like they've also shown interest in Luke Balaklenko, Stanford offensive tackle. Some of these guys have really bad PFF grades. Not PFF. Means that
we connected the dude from Liberty.
Mm-hmm, yeah, Jordan White, the guard from Liberty. That's another player Ohio State showed interest in. I know he has visits scheduled to Michigan and a couple other programs already. Doesn't sound like one with Ohio State yet. Another one that's really interesting, guys. Teran Teo, the offensive lineman from Ball State. Honestly, all-around solid player. He looks like he's a mauler. He's more than likely going to be a guard for Ohio State rather than a tackle. I think that's at least what I would assume. He is an Ohio kid, so that's something else to keep in mind. Not that means it's like a given, but it normally, in this case, in the portal era, if these guys are from Ohio, it does help you a little bit. And, of course, we'll see who also enters the portal, but yeah, the reality is offensive line, that's going to be a big one. I do know just for conversations I've had with them, Ohio State has not yet reached out to the top kicker on the market, Jesus Gomez from Eastern Michigan. They have not reached out to him yet. I reached out again today. They said they have not been in contact with him to this point. So I'm a little bit frustrated on that one, but I'm hoping if we don't add him, I hope we add a kicker of some sort because
DJ, do you want to let the people know who has entered the portal for Ohio State?
We're going to touch on that in another episode.
I was about to get onto that, and then we could do a brief react. So real quick from Ohio State so far, not a ton of guys, at least we're early into this process. So far, offensive tackle Miles Walker, he's entered the portal. Never was going to really – I didn't really understand why he came to Ohio State to begin with. That was a late recruit that they snagged on signing day, and he never has gotten an opportunity here. So kind of a weird one, I feel like, just for numbers. From there, Kojo Antwi, wide receiver, has entered the portal. Jaden Ballard's entered the portal. And, of course, guys, the big one we've already talked about, Gabe Powers at this point. Yeah, but the big one, quarterback Devin Brown is entering the transfer portal. He will stay with Ohio State through the college football playoff, but he is officially in the portal, which means he can be contacted by other schools and he can technically schedule visits and whatnot. I don't know how that would work, but he is able to do that. So we'll obviously touch on this a little bit more in next week's episode. But guys, what are your thoughts on Devin Brown entering the transfer portal? I hinted at this earlier this week. It will not be the last quarterback Ohio State loses in the portal. I will tell you that right now.
It is what it is, right? So, I mean, now I think if you're Ryan Day, I think building up to this Tennessee game, Julian Sayin gets all team 2 reps. It's all of them. Devin Brown, you're not going to be here next year. I think Sayin gets all the reps right after Will Howard, right? So, I mean, I'm not super shocked, but I mean,
yeah, I'm not shocked.
He's burning the boats. I thought he was going to stay, right? He's going to stay all 4, 5 years, whatever. But I mean, he must think he has an opportunity elsewhere. So good for him. Wish him the best, right? It does kind of suck.
Yeah, he's got to see the writing on the wall for sure.
Well, we never got to see him, right? So we really don't know what he's capable of. You know, he's either hurt, just didn't play. Yeah. Never got a chance.
Yeah.
We thought the bowl game was going to be our chance, and then what happens? Gets hurt,
and then they bring in Will Howard.
Yeah.
So
that's all she wrote.
He won't be, like I've told people, for anyone who's watching right now, he will not be the last quarterback that'll enter. There's a lot of smoke out there about Aaron Nolan going back home to the Georgia area. So down south, that seems highly likely. Lincoln Keenholz, we'll see. I think there's a chance he leaves. And I'm going to leave it here. Don't rule out Julian Sayin leaving either. So it's going to be a very interesting portal season for Ohio State. A lot of people think he is guaranteed the starting job next year. We'll just wait and see. There's a lot more going on with Julian Sayin than what the local media will let you know. I'll just tell you that. But transfer portal guys, it is hopping right now. Of course, there've been a lot of players that have entered. A lot of guys that have also entered that have been in the portal 2 or 3 other times before.
Chip Trainum, we're talking about you, dude. Freaking plays 3 games at UK. He's like, deuces, fam. I need to catch the bag.
Real quick, you brought Chip, so I'll just ask the question because some Buckeye fans have asked. Would you bring Chip back?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
If we don't have to pay him a crap ton, sure. He's a bruiser.
Just as the veteran back in the room. Yeah. I mean, we just have a bunch of young guys next year.
See, but I think with Chip, I think he's going to go somewhere where he's guaranteed to start.
And it won't be here.
And it won't be here. Yeah, because if he wants to play at the next level, he has to put a monster film on tape this year, this coming year. He's got to put it all out there. So that will not be happening here at Ohio State.
I bet they do bring in a veteran back, though.
I would be shocked if they didn't on it because, I mean, Judkins has gone to the NFL. You're losing Henderson.
Freshman.
And I've told you guys this. Are we going to – if this coaching staff stays, and it's still an if because we don't know with 100% certainty, are they going to risk their jobs on potentially a redshirt freshman at quarterback, a sophomore running back? That's what you guys have to ask yourselves. And that's why – There's some good portal backs available. I'm not saying they're going to go out and get the best one or anything like that, but there's some guys from some smaller level, non-Power 4 schools out there that could be pretty good, especially in a Chip Kelly offense. So we'll see what happens. I was surprised in a way Chip left because, dude, I don't know where you're going to really go. You're coming off an injury. I don't really understand that one.
A broken hand. Broken hand. So it's I don't know, dude.
Yeah. Wish him the best wherever he ends up, seriously. Any of these former Buckeyes. I've seen a lot of them. J.K. Johnson, Jair Brown, a couple LSU guys that transferred to LSU back in the portal. So wish all of our former Buckeyes best of luck. But, again, next week we're going to have an entire episode based off the transfer portal, Buckeyes that have entered, and, of course, any players the Buckeyes are connected to and any updates there. But before we wrap things up on this episode, guys, anything else you want to add?
Man, I think it's a pretty quiet week this week, just in preparation,
All right, let's do our one pick. Who you got? Army, Navy.
Oh,
easy. Army.
I kind of want to go with the midshipmen just because of their uniforms that they're wearing this week.
I can't not go with the midshipmen.
Yeah, you're a veteran.
Yeah.
Army win, but
I think Army's going to win.
I'm going with
Dude,
Bryson Daly, man, it's just
that game is always just such a toss-up, though. You just never know.
it's so fun to watch.
It is fun to watch. I agree. It's so funny that it's a regular season game after the conference
I
title.
know.
Since Shady brought it up, how'd everyone end up finishing the year?
Oh,
I was 64-41 to end the year.
64-41.
I was actually wrong. I finished 7-2 from last week, and I finished at 69-36.
Did you catch me, Jordan?
No. W. Did Louisiana win?
Yes.
No, they got steamrolled.
Yeah, Marshall beat them.
Jermaine, real quick. No rumor on veteran quarterback in the portal at this point. We'll talk about all that like next week. But I'm just saying, Devin Brown, he is gone. Aaron Nolan likely to the portal. Keenholz, I'd say it's a strong possibility. And then the wild card is Julian Sand. We'll get into more of that next week.
We're going to bring Ewers in next year.
What did you finish with, Nick?
64-41.
I finished with 58-46.
We all went over 500 at least.
At least to be
like
JD had a rough start though.
He did. He made
quite a climb. He started. Yeah.
Had a couple.
I love looking at my sheet, just like all my picks and stuff. It's great.
Dude, I love that that's on paper too.
Yeah, dude, I wrote it down.
I used 2 pages, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I lost my other one. So.
What we'll do is we'll all do the bowl championship picks on ESPN and see how we can do, which will be really difficult with the transfer portal. That'll be
kidding.
Just a blast to try. We have to make sure we actually get that done soon because I think the bowl games start next week. But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't believe so. But we have 932 people watching. So first off, guys, thank you
Shout out to y'all.
very much. Again, huge live viewer count, and I really appreciate that. Really helps the channel. It really helps the show. So thank you for that. If you would just do a quick second. I know a lot of you guys are on Twitter. Just, again, go to YouTube, drop a quick like. It doesn't take you very long. It does not take long. Subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Also, for those that are late to the show and missed most of the show, of course, not only will the show be available on YouTube, it'll be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow morning. So make sure you don't miss that. Next week, probably we won't have an episode later this week unless there's just some breaking news that we absolutely have to talk, which, I mean, you never know these days. But hopefully nothing breaks. But next week, we will have an episode on the transfer portal. We'll talk about targets for the Buckeyes. We'll talk about updates on some of these targets. We hit on briefly some of them, but then we'll talk about Buckeyes that have entered the portal, ramifications that could have, and more. So make sure you don't miss any of that. Thank you, everyone that tunes into the show. We appreciate every single one of you. Talk to you guys all again soon. As always, go Buckeyes.